Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time.
Hi, I'm Amanda,
And I'm Nikki.
and welcome to Working Mom's Wine, where we drink a bottle of wine.
And whine about our crazy, busy, stressful working mom lives while trying to come up with resources to help along the way and have fun and talk about book club.
That's right. We're going to do another book review, but this time we're doing it as we read the book. So
Yeah,
this will be fun because we can make
this is
predictions and
fun.
stuff. Um,
I've got a
I believe
prediction. Are
this.
you ready?
What?
My prediction is that Amanda will have many more accurate predictions than I will.
Yes, I think so. I spoiler alert, we were ready to record 2 of these, and a couple of my predictions have already come true. This is, I believe, the final Adam Pukta wine that I have in my possession, but we'll check. This is a sweet white wine, so it's a Missouri white wine. It has a soft floral nose. It is clean, fresh, and fruity, perfect with cheesecake, and will turn you upside down with pineapple upside down cake. I don't think it needs any food. I think it's delicious.
That sounds delicious.
What are you drinking? The usual?
The usual. Bought a box Nighthawk Red Blend in my newest cup. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I haven't moved my Tamagotchi yet, but I did hang the wine a little laugh a lot sign. Um, so the book we are covering this time is John Marr's The One. Sometimes you might come across one with a different cover because it had a different cover on it. And when Netflix decided to adapt it as a show or whatever they're doing, movie, whatever it is, they
Mm-hmm.
updated the cover. This actually used to be, fun fact, called A Thousand Little Explosions. And
Huh.
then they changed it to The One for the same reason. Netflix was like, "Hey, let's do something with this." Um,
Boo, Netflix. I like
but
the other title better.
I don't know. The whole book club, including myself, hated it until I read the line in the book that relates to it, and then I was like, "Oh, well, at least now it makes sense." Um, but I don't think any of us are going to watch the adaptation because, from what I understand, they changed everybody's name, and Chris and Amy aren't even in it.
Huh?
Yeah.
Ha-
And I think
okay.
we can all agree that Chris and Amy are perhaps the best part of this story when
I
we
mean,
get
it's
there.
certainly the funniest part
Mhm.
in a karma sort of way, but
It really is.
that makes me. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have known that before getting to the end of the book because maybe they aren't as big of a piece as I think they are.
I don't think it's that because the girl that wanted us to read this book has read this book and she was
Mm,
equally incensed that neither of them were
okay.
in it.
That's
And then
crazy.
and then they change everyone else's name. So like Ellie is called Rebecca. Like what was Ellie not a good enough name? Like why are we changing everyone's name?
Did they make it with Americans? Did they try to Americanize it? Is that the thing?
Ooh, maybe that's it. That's a good
That's so
point.
stupid. Not that there
But I
aren't
mean like
American people named Ellie, obviously, and
right,
British
I
people
know two
named
of them.
Rebecca. like,
And
but
like
that's what
Christopher,
immediately struck in my head.
well, I won't give all the character names away yet, but the majority of the names in that book I could totally see as Americans anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Bizarre.
Yep. Super
Way to
bizarre.
go, TV and movies ruining stuff as usual.
And that's the thing, like, I had finally gotten to the point where I was like, okay, if it's a book or I'm sorry, a movie or whatever made off my favorite book, it's just there's gonna be things that I don't like. And I'm just gonna have to deal with it and accept that I'm watching something different.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the changes they're making with this one are just like, we're just going to give you something totally completely different that has nothing to do with the book.
Yeah, I think back in the day, it used to be changes that were just a little irksome, but
Right.
just to like the diehard fans of whatever
Like
series it
leaving
was,
Tom Bombadil out of The Lord of the Rings.
Sure. I don't know who that is. But it's like as the years go on and the more remakes we have and then book adaptations and then the live action Disney movies, it's like it just gets worse and worse and worse. They just get further
Yeah.
and further away from the original thing. And the whole reason you're making a movie off this, guys, is because of how freaking popular the original thing was.
Right.
So why are you messing with perfection?
Right.
Everybody's got to put their own special spin on stuff, and their special spin sucks. Okay? It sucks. Talking to
Well,
you,
on a
Lilo and
happier
Stitch
note,
writers.
I know. I was going to say Ohana no longer means family. I have Bob's Burgers shirts now.
Look at you. Very cute.
Roosevelt's came out with a Bob's Burger, and I bought a couple of them.
I've heard that the Roosevelt shirts are really nice to wear in the theme parks because they're very breathable.
The fabric
Yeah.
is crazy. I have 2 Fantasia shirts I'm definitely going to wear. I'm trying to remember if I picked up
I don't have
anything
any
else with them.
Roosevelts, but yeah.
Well, they're expensive.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I did
But
go on
once I
Etsy
bought
and
one
buy
and I
some
felt
tank
the...
tops. But...
There you go. Once I felt the material, I was like, okay, this is why they're expensive.
Yeah, they're worth it.
They're worth it. So, the one. The whole premise is that there is now a DNA test that you can take, and it will tell you who your soulmate is. Now, and they do it using genetics. Someone found a gene that they can use to discover who matches up perfectly with someone else. The catch is that person might be a baby, they might be dead, they might be the opposite sex that you generally find yourself attracted to, they might be a good person or a bad person, they might actually be perfect. You don't know. So some people
And you
choose
don't
to
know
take,
where in
it's
the
not,
world they are.
yeah,
And you
that's
don't
true. They could be
know
somewhere else.
if you'll ever match them because not everybody buys the service.
Right. It's not like a government mandated thing at this point. It's voluntary. So like you can choose to take it, and then you can choose to pay £10, whatever that translates to in US dollars, to find out their basic contact information. And then if you don't have a match, then that just means that your match may not have registered yet, basically.
Yeah.
I have like an itchy nose right now. So the first person that we get introduced to is Mandy. And Mandy is a divorcee, and she's tried to have kids, but she hasn't been successful in that area. And so the book opens on her thumbing through pictures of the guy that is her match, and we come to find out that she didn't know she'd been matched for a while because it went into her spam folder. So she's found out, she's looking through these pictures while she's at work. He's very good looking, very athletic, a globetrotter. Before we go any further, if you have not read this book and you don't want to know everything that happens,
Spoiler
just don't
alert.
watch. Don't watch.
This is chapters 1 through 26.
I was going to say that's the next thing we should point out. So read chapters 1 through 26. It won't take you very long. And then come back.
It's fast.
And
you guys should also know Amanda's reading the book. I'm listening to the audiobook. So you'll have a couple perspectives there.
Yes. My book club started at work, and I said, this is the one we're starting. And Nikki was like, ooh, I can get it. And we were like, ooh, let's podcast about it. So
yeah.
So Mandy, poor Mandy.
Poor Mandy.
She goes home, and she's got her mom and her two sisters, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is there 2 or 3? Okay.
2.
Got her sisters. Her sisters have families and kids. And Mandy's the one that's like, not only is she divorced, but she doesn't have kids, and like everyone's enjoying their family life, and she's wishing she had a husband and kids because that's what she's always wanted. And so she goes and she's like, "Hey, I got matched," and everybody, is super excited for her, but they're also saying really funny family things, like his. I love when his when her mom. I love when her mom was like asking about his Willie. And that's the term she uses in the book too. It was
Because
really,
a lot
really
of them are
funny.
British in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And that part is really fun. When you're listening to the audiobooks, they hired like 5 or 6 different voice actors. And so they actually do have like the British accent or the Australian
Yeah,
accent. And that's really fun.
yeah. It's really funny because like sometimes I'll be reading a book and then I'll realize that it's British, and like all of a sudden my internal narrator is British.
And
um,
it should also be said that Mandy's divorce happened because her husband found his match and divorced her to
oh
be
yes,
with his match.
yes.
Um,
And now that woman has the husband and child that Mandy has always wanted.
yeah. Weren't they like high school sweethearts or something too? I
I
think I
don't know
remember them being
because
like school sweethearts or something.
but there's another couple that is, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't
Maybe I'm
remember if
mixing it up.
Mandy is or not.
Okay.
Um, what
So
was I
she
thinking
gets the
about?
email, but she doesn't see it
Oh,
for 6 weeks.
correct. So the the chapter where she's talking to her family about Richard is his name for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They say something that you should never ever say. Did you catch it?
Probably not because I was listening to it.
I think it's her mom, but I don't remember for a fact. Says, "What could possibly go wrong?" Because
mm,
Mandy's wondering if she should reach out to Richard because Richard hasn't reached out to her yet. And one of them says, "What could possibly go wrong?" And I was
mm-hmm.
like, shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have said that. Hagrid, shouldn't have said that.
Mm-mm.
So, foreshadowing. Um, I was trying to see if there was a part where it talks about Sean, but it's going to take too much looking, I think, for me to figure out if it mentioned them being sweethearts or not.
Oh,
You might be right.
I started to say the only note I have about her is poor Mandy. I said I want to
Yes.
know if in this book realm world where this test exists, does more than one soulmate in a lifetime exist or not, or is it just one and you're done and you're screwed if it's not one that works out for you, age wise or location wise or whatever? Because
Yeah.
the next chapter where you hear about Mandy, she's walking into a memorial service for Richard because he died
Mm-hmm.
before she
He
met him.
died.
I didn't go back and look at
Um,
the timeline. I wondered if she had gotten the email on time, if she would have gotten to meet him before he died,
it
or
sounds like possibly
yeah.
because I think there was like a 2 week period where they could have connected.
Okay.
I'm not 100%
Ugh,
sure on that, but I was wondering the
heart
same thing.
wrenching.
I know. But so she's basically standing outside of the memorial service and she's like, "You don't know yet what it is." But she's like, "No
Mm-hmm.
one's going to know that I'm late because they're not expecting me, blah, blah, blah." And then it's his funeral. So she did some more digging online when he didn't connect with her, and she started thinking, maybe I will connect with him. And she gets added onto his Facebook, and that's when she finds out that everyone's leaving all these nice
In
obituaries for
memoriam
him.
posts and yeah.
Yeah. So, and then she does something really, 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 really stupid. Why would you do it? Why? Is she just an attention seeker? Is that what this is going to come out to?
I think she just panicked.
Maybe. Well, I mean, why? You could have just stood there quietly and listened. Everyone's sharing stories after the service about Richard, and she starts sharing a fake story, and it's in front of Richard's sister, who immediately calls Mandy out. And
Mm-hmm.
I
She's like,
texted Nikki.
no.
I was like, "Mandy, you idiot!" Moral of the
Yeah.
story:
She's like,
if any
nope,
of you get matched
that's not
with
true.
your
That can't be
perfect
true. How
person,
do you know him?
right?
Don't lie.
Open, don't don't open your stupid mouth
I wrote probably 2 to 3 other times in the rest that we've listened to in capital letters. Why is everyone lying? Stop lying. This is making it worse. Just be honest.
Right. And
When you
that's
want to start
always
off your
like the case.
relationship with your soulmate on a
Right.
lie? I mean, not that Mandy was starting a relationship, obviously. She couldn't. But she
Yeah.
was curious
Well,
about him and his family, and she wanted to go see what it was like.
and there are obviously people who are happily married without knowing anything about their match, or maybe they took the test and found out that they're not matched to their soulmate and stayed in that relationship and are still happy. Um, there's going to be situations where when you find out who your soulmate is, it makes you unhappy, like this one. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, they have a little ad for it in the book. And did it read through the ad for you? I don't remember.
I think it did, at least parts of
Okay.
it, because it gave it like
Yeah.
a description of what it was.
Yeah. So it says, thank you for choosing Match Your DNA, the world's first scientifically proven test. 100% guaranteed to match you with the one and only person you're genetically designed to fall in love with. With 1.7 billion people already matched or on our register, this is your foolproof way of finding the one. So you do your DNA swab, you have a one-time
God,
fee
I
of
wish that
10
existed.
pounds. Maybe you'll be of the different opinion after this book, who knows? Because it's supposed to be a
Maybe.
thriller. It says if you don't currently have a match, do not worry. Thousands of new customers join Match Your DNA each week, and 98% of matches are identified within 6 months of registering. And then they have a nice little disclaimer that they will not be held responsible for any direct, indirect, or consequential harm related to using this service, including but not limited to dissolution of existing relationships, personal injury or death, personal injury or death that does not result from Match Your DNA's negligence or misconduct, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
there's a
All the normal
98
legal
percent of
stuff.
people. Yeah, 98% of people get matched within like 6 months. There's like a 90 something success rate. They have stats on how many people feel a spark immediately versus how many people it takes a little bit longer to feel a spark, things like that. So there's a lot of supposed science behind all of this. Um, so Mandy discovers that Richard is dead. And when she gets caught in her lie, she fesses up to Richard's sister, Chloe, that she's Richard's match, or was Richard's match.
Mm-hmm.
So Chloe then starts to introduce her to her family, and Mandy starts hanging out with Richard's family and learning more about who Richard was. I think it's a little weird that they are spending so much time together. Like, sure, like
Yeah.
at the funeral, maybe like, like, oh man, sorry for your loss, sorry for your loss too. Like, like maybe a couple
Yeah.
of
Like, these
stories,
are
and then you move
strangers
on.
here. Like,
Yeah, but she's like going to their house. They let her into his bedroom. They're like acting like she's someone they've known forever. And at first I wondered if like maybe he had faked his death and when she went into the bedroom he was going to be there and it was all going to be a test, but like that wasn't it. Maybe the only reason I have accurate
wow.
predictions is because I get like 5 ideas and then one of them's right. And I mean, I guess there's something
It's
we're
a
going to cover
lot.
in part 2 anyway, but like I thought it was weird
Yeah.
from the beginning.
It's a lot. And I definitely thought to myself, like, who is this mom that she's just like, oh, stranger, come into my
Yeah,
home and into my recently deceased child's bedroom? And like, not that he
right.
was a little kid, but you know, it just
Yeah,
seemed very strange, a very intimate thing to just do.
yeah,
And not,
yeah,
I could see them building a connection, maybe like maybe she and the sister decide they have stuff in common and they become friends,
yeah,
and like over time
right.
that happened. But this is like, oh
Exactly.
no, the next day you're gonna come stay
Right,
with us. I'm like,
right.
what?
It's a
And
little
this whole
weird. A
time
little weird.
Mandy, who's so close to her sisters and mother, has not told any of them.
Yeah.
So it's
She
like,
does
what,
not tell them that Richard is dead.
are you
So
getting inducted into a cult? Like, what is happening
that
here?
that is exactly what I was gonna say. It seems very culty. So person number 2 that we meet is an immediate tone shift. And as someone who is reading versus the audiobook, and you might pick this up in the audiobook too, I don't know, but like even the writing from Mandy to Christopher, the writing style is totally different. And you can
Hmm.
hear the differences in these two characters. So, Christopher, his chapter opens up on him sitting in a chair and admiring how symmetrical the placemats are on the table, but being disgusted at the person's taste in literature because he's like looking at their bookshelf. And my first thought was, oh, he must be like his person must be in the other room, or maybe he's hanging out with someone, but they're not his match and whatever. Did not expect him to get up and start rearranging the corpse he had just murdered.
Dun dun dun.
Christopher is
That was a
a
great moment.
serial killer. It was a great moment. Really hope
I
you
did not.
obeyed our spoiler warning if you don't want to hear stuff like this, but
Yes, I knew. You know, the book's a thriller, so you expect someone somewhere to be a murderer in some
sure,
way. But
sure.
to drop it that fast and be that
Right.
clear, like, oh, this man is the killer or a killer, I guess.
Yeah,
And so then I sat there and I thought, huh, this is a pretty good twist because is there going to be something different? Like, obviously, it's not, you're not going to go with something that clear and expected, right? Like, they've just laid that
right,
one out for you immediately.
right.
So there has to be something else that happens. But I was very intrigued by that immediate
Yeah,
mic drop.
yeah. And you start to learn more later in the book about like his methods and his calling card and all this other stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
he's basically, as a generic overview, luring single women. He gets on an app that's for people who don't have a match yet, and
A dating
he
app, yeah.
tricks yeah, and he tricks them into giving him enough information where he can start tracking them using their phone numbers, and then he learns their patterns, waits until a good time, murders them, and then he has like this calling card that helps connect all of his cases.
Mm-hmm.
So, um he gets his match results, and it's something where like he's been thinking about it, but he wasn't sure if he wanted to like take a look, and then he decides that he does want to take a look. So next thing you know, he's kind of spying on his date through the window. She's in the restaurant, and he's like, he's narcissistic, he likes to have control, so he's going to stand there and wait for a while to enter the restaurant, and he wants her to be so frustrated she's about to leave, and then he's going to show up with some excuse. He
These
does all
stupid
of
games
that.
that
He
people
gets
play.
Exactly. And he gets in there and he sits down, and things are going fine. And then he finds out that his match for a living is a police officer.
Dun dun
So
dun.
we both thought that was pretty
I
funny.
said
Um
karma.
mhm. Nikki was like immediately like, "Christopher."
Yeah.
um
I said you'll
she
know the moment when
claims
you get to it.
yeah, she claims that she works in the fraud department. But he does ask her, he's like, they don't know who he is, but like he's a well-known serial killer, like he's in the media, all this other stuff. He does ask her if she knows anything about the case. She's all like, I I can't talk about it. What do you think about like, well, here, let me say this first. At the end of the date, she basically calls him out. She's like, "Listen, I know you were outside the restaurant forever. You don't have to wine and dine me. You don't have to pull those tricks. We don't have to do any of the dating game stuff because we already know where each other's matches. And basically, like, take me home and bed me right now." So she's very forward.
She's like, I'm gonna jump
Um,
your bones.
do you have any initial thoughts about them and the potential twist there? Because I do.
I do now, but mostly because of what I read later on past part one. So I'd say initially I did not. I wondered if it was going to become part of his game, like if he was going to start including her in like his plans and like dropping little hints and things or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I did not think that she would have Like they give you the impression that she has nothing to do with that case and would never be anywhere near
Right.
it. And I thought that was probably BS, because why would a serial killer be soulmated with a cop for a thriller novel, if not to somehow come together on that?
Yeah.
But that was the only initial thoughts I had.
I have a couple different theories. The first one is that she's not really his match. The police are onto him and they're using her as bait.
That would be interesting.
She comes out of the bathroom, like she's like, "Oh, I have to go to the bathroom," and she comes out and slips a phone into her purse, and he's like, "What's up with that?" And she was like, "It was a work call." Well, is it a work call because that was a sting operation? But maybe she's lying to him. Maybe she's not a cop. Maybe she's a fan. Maybe she knows who he is, and
Ooh, that's
she
an interesting
want,
theory.
yeah, like a little Harley Quinn thing. So not that that's what happened with Harley Quinn, but that's where Harley Quinn ended up. So I just think it's not all as it seems there. I think Amy's hiding a
Yeah,
little something, but we'll see.
something's going on there.
So person number 3, Jade.
Oh, Jade.
Jade's match is on the other side of the world. She's in Britain, he's in Australia. And his name is Kevin. And
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning, his whole, "Sorry, I can only
Kevin.
talk for 2 seconds and I have to go," was kind of weird to me.
That didn't bother me so much. I don't
It
know.
was very
He
sudden,
lives on a farm with his parents. His dad needed help with something.
but it sounds like
I mean,
it's
sometimes you
something that
suddenly have
happens
to
all the
go.
time.
I
It
didn't
sounds like
find
he's
anything
always telling
suspicious
her
about that.
that.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe
I
it's
don't
just
know. I
me reading
didn't.
into it because she only says that she's mad that the time was so short after she waited so long to talk to him. So maybe they do talk longer on other times.
Maybe.
But
I think they were struggling with the time difference too.
yes, they are definitely struggling with the time difference. Um, and he won't FaceTime or Skype her.
Now that is
So
suspicious.
that was a little weird. But Jade is basically someone who, like, she refused to move back in with her parents. She's working a job where, like, she's trying to pay her own bills, but she's struggling. She's got a lot of student debt, all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
when she's at work one day, she's talking to a couple of girls who are complaining about the guys in the dating pool because, like, in the real world, the dating pool can kind of suck anyway. But imagine a world where people who really wanted to know who their soulmate was, and I imagine a lot of the people interested in this are women, are getting matched up with their soulmates, and you're just left with whoever didn't take the test. So her friends are trying to date people, and they're not running into quality people, and they encourage her
Mm-hmm.
to, on a whim, throw a plane ticket onto a credit card and go all the way to Australia and see Kevin in person. Does
Stupid.
she, yeah, does she tell him ahead of time? No. Does she
Nope.
prepare him at all
Stupid.
before calling him literally right outside of his farm? No.
Stalker.
Does Kevin welcome her with open arms? No. And we don't know why at this point.
He says, "You shouldn't
We
have come here."
and hangs up. And of course, she starts cursing
I,
herself and driving back to where the airport is and all this other stuff. And then she just gets like, she works herself up so much that she's like, "You know what? No." And turns around and speeds back to the farm and barges up to the door. And someone who isn't Kevin answers it. And it turns out to be his brother. So
Mhm.
he tries to tell her that Kevin's not there. Kevin's like, "You know what? It's okay." Comes down the stairs, says, "This isn't what you were expecting, is it?" And then it cuts. And that's all we're going to get for part
Dun
one,
dun
unfortunately.
dun.
So at that point, what were your theories about Kevin?
I thought perhaps Kevin was married, or
Which is what Jade thought.
wasn't who the pictures that he sent in, like, maybe weren't really him, like
Yeah,
catfishing kind of a thing.
that's what a lot of people in my book club thought.
I mean, it makes sense if he won't FaceTime and stuff. Like, obviously, he doesn't look like his pictures or something, or what have you. But maybe he was pretending to be somebody else, and maybe Kevin really exists, but he's not Kevin, and she's been texting the wrong person. Those were kind of
Yeah.
some of the things I thought of. But
We had someone suggest that maybe it was Kevin's dad pretending to be Kevin.
but
My
then when she
first
met the
thought,
brother, I wondered maybe brother was pretending. But
yeah, my first thought was that maybe Kevin was handicapped. But
that could be.
more to come, because that's all
Yeah.
we get. So then we find out about Nick and Sally, who
I just found a
apparently,
funny little note about Chris. Can I plug it in real quick before we start another couple?
yeah,
So Chris is the serial killer, and at one point in part one, Amy calls him, and he answers the phone while he's murdering somebody else.
oh, I
And I
forgot about
said,
that.
"You idiot! Can't your phone ping your location at any time? Like, why are you answering a phone call while you're murdering somebody?" Not
That's a
only is that
really,
like risky, but couldn't they like ping his phone from being there? Like, what are you doing?
that's a really good point, because at first he uses a boner
Boner phone.
burner. Actually, I don't know if he ever does use a burner phone with her,
Yeah, I
because
don't know
maybe it's
either.
Ellie that uses the burner initially and then gives Tim her real number. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm painting my nails while we do this because I forgot we're going to the winery tomorrow and I need nails. Yeah, that is funny and a very big slip up. And I can't wait to point that out to my book club because I didn't think about that. That's a good point about Christopher. I didn't think about that.
Okay.
So
On to the
now
next.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'm gonna have to look up if he was using his real phone, because that's real dumb of him. But that does bring up another thing that we didn't really talk about. He's so methodical and quote unquote perfect and all this other stuff, and he does
Mhm.
mess up on one victim, and it's right after he meets Amy, and I think like she's throwing him off
Yeah.
subconsciously. Okay, so next is Nick, who is about to be married to the love of his life, Sally. They couldn't be happier.
Couldn't be
So
happier.
they're engaged and looking forward to being married. And Sally just has this wonderful little friend who plants it in Sally's brain that, man, they really ought to just take their match test and just be sure. And she's got like her husband with her, and like this is like a couple friendship. It's not just
Yeah, so they're
Sally
on
and
like
this
a double
girl.
date and they're
Right. Like
talking about
they
it.
are friends with each other as couples. So Sumaira, or however you say her name, she is like, you should just take it and be sure. Like, Deepak and I knew we were going to marry each other anyway, and then we took it and we were both each other's matches, which seems a little weird too. And you guys should just take it just to be sure. And Nick's all like, no, I don't want to. I'm happy with
That's
what I
stupid.
have. Yeah, I don't need to know. We're already happy. Who cares?
Mhm.
Well, wouldn't you know it, little Sally just wants to listen to her stupid little friend. Sally does not have a lot of brownie points with the book club, I'll tell you that. So Sally is like, I don't know. Maybe we should. And Nick's like, go home, Sally, you're drunk. But Sally keeps persisting about it even after she's sober again. And so they both send off their
And
info.
she sets it up like, hey, if we find out that we have matches, we don't care who they are.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just know that we have to work harder at keeping ourselves together and staying on
Yeah,
top of, keeping each other happy, as
yeah.
opposed to, you know, not
And
knowing or
she's even
whatever
like,
and taking it
what
for
if it's a
granted.
celebrity, like stuff like that. So the emails come in, and Sally tells her she has no match. And I have not looked back through the book to see if this is true, but someone in our book club was insisting that if you don't have a match, you don't get an email, that you don't get anything until you do have a match. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
factual or not. So if it is factual, Sally's lying about getting an email. But Sally opens her email and it says no match. And Nick's like, I don't care. I don't want to do this. Why are we doing this? Like, I don't even want to look at mine. Let's just move on with life. And Sally's like, no, 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 we have to know. And he's like, you know what? If you want to know, you can know. And he hands her the phone that his email account's on. And she opens it up and finds out that his match is a guy. And she finds that hilarious because obviously they are currently a heterosexual couple. And she's like, haha, you do have a match. And it's a dude.
And he's like, they definitely messed up. I've never had
Yeah.
any feelings towards men. Like, this
Yeah.
is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Right. He's like, she's like, well,
He
you must
didn't
be at
even
least
want to like
bi. And he's
look.
like,
And she's
no.
like, no, you have a match. You
Yeah.
have to look. And he's like,
Right.
why? This is stupid. I
Yeah.
didn't even want to do this.
She's pushing him into it. And even then, she makes him go meet the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he does it under a fake name. And the guy just happens to be, I guess it's like a sports therapist. What's
Yeah, a
physio? Is physio massage to
physiotherapist.
them?
I took it to be like a physical therapist,
Okay.
but
So
he
he
does
makes,
like injury repair and massage and
yeah,
stuff.
because he was like stretching out his shoulder or something. So he
Mm-hmm.
makes a appointment under a fake name. And since it's a PT appointment, there's shirts coming off and all kinds of stuff. And he's just like, nothing, normal thing,
Yeah,
whatever.
nothing's happening. I'm
Clearly no
good. It's
feelings for
fine.
this guy. Goes to check out, catches Alexander's eye on the way out. And he's like, I felt something. And I know Alexander felt it too.
They both look bewildered at each other and caught their
Mm-hmm.
breath and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not attracted to
Right,
this man, but I had this
right,
moment, and he obviously had this moment. And what is happening?
right.
So he goes back to meet
Um,
up with Sally, and he's like, nothing happened. Lies. More
boo.
lies.
So we have one more person to cover,
Okay.
and that is Ellie.
Oh,
Ellie
wait. I have
is
one more thing to say about Nick. I have one more thing.
okay. Go for it.
Okay. So back when Grey's Anatomy was a popular, well watched thing, maybe it still is.
Yeah,
I don't know. I got tired of it and quit. Uh,
same.
they had, the Meredith and Dr. Chang storyline, and they were BFFs and they were soulmates, and they always said to each other, "You're my person, you're my person." It wasn't
Yeah,
romantic. They had their own partners, and I just think that I really wondered at this point, like, is that what Nick and Alex are? Are they
yeah,
just going to be
same.
like best forever buds?
I got to
But
thinking
they're
about
putting
that
a lot
too.
of pressure on it to like have to mean something
Uh,
romantic, or that it definitely does. And I'm like,
yeah. I started wondering that in general, like, there's some people that it's like, okay, this can obviously quickly be a romantic thing too. And there's other people, maybe like Ellie and Tim, because they don't have a lot in common, which we're about to get to. It does seem like maybe they're one of the things they could find out is that this isn't a find your soulmate gene, but a like find the person you most connect with as a
mm-hmm,
bestie gene, and it
mm-hmm.
just like often ends up translating into romance.
Yeah, like this is the person you're supposed to support through life and support you. And
Right. It's your person. It's just not
yeah.
necessarily your romantic person. But we will find some other things out that kind of throw a wrench in the works either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that is a good point because Nick is not the only one that feels like the test is bunk and that they don't have feelings for the gender that the test says they have feelings for. So the final person that we meet is Ellie. Ellie is a successful businesswoman, and it
She's a
is
high powered
alluded,
CEO.
yeah, it is alluded to that she has maybe done some unscrupulous things to get to where she is. Maybe there's been some corner cutting, things like that, but that those days are behind her. And now when she goes on these high-powered interviews, if they want to talk about her personal life, she shuts it down. But she still has to do the interviews that want to talk about business because you got to promote the business. But she
Gotta promote
doesn't.
the business.
They make a point to not tell you what company it's for. And she has also submitted to find out who her match is. And she's known that she's matched, but she's not sure she wants to look into it. She's very busy. She's trying to take care of the business. She is afraid that everyone that she dates is just after her for her money, things like that. So she's uncertain on if she should even check it out. But curiosity gets the better of her, and she does initially contact this person through a burner phone so they don't have her actual phone number.
Yeah. She's
And
been burned before, as they
that's
say.
right.
And
And
apparently, all these high powered CEOs, like she's one of the few women out there, and they never ask the men about their love lives, and they never hound them about their, sexual desires and things and tastes. But all of her boyfriends get paid money eventually and sell her life to the tabloids.
And something that we probably should have pointed out in the beginning, this whole universe is our universe. There's references to all kinds of things that are in our actual world, like J.K. Rowling and Donald Trump and all these other things. So the only difference at this point is that they have this magical test and we do not. It's very easy to get her point of like, if this was a male CEO, no one would care. But because I'm a woman, people care. So she does decide to connect with this guy, and they meet in a pub, and it's like common interests wise, they don't have a lot in common, but they do make each other laugh and they're having a good time, and she decides to keep pursuing this. I didn't have any immediate theories on Ellie and Tim, but someone in the book club pointed out that perhaps it's impossible for Tim to not know who she is, and maybe there's some kind of setup going on because he does know who she is and he's pretending not to.
Yeah, because like everybody else in this book, when they figure out their match, they go into detective mode and they start searching Facebook and Googling people. And obviously, if you Google someone as famous as her, stuff's going to pop up.
Yeah, like Ellie literally pays her personal assistants to research Tim, her match.
Yeah. But I do think, is it later on that she explains the last name?
She does in part 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead.
Yeah. Which none of us knew that, I don't think. I don't know that it says in part 1 that she changed her last name.
Yeah, I don't remember if it does.
Yeah. But someone was pointing out that every couple has a problem except for Ellie and Tim. And so they're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like,
well, that's not true because she starts it off with a lie. I think that's a problem. She's lying about who she is and her job and all of that. And I thought
it's more of a tame situation, I guess.
That's true. Got
the one who has
nobody's dead. Nobody's a serial killer. Nobody.
Yeah. No one's halfway across the world and clearly hiding something. No one's potentially secretly in the closet. So they're the only ones that seem halfway normal. So it's like, what's going on there? But I wonder if the thing that we found out in part 2, where I was like, oh, I'm not surprised. Maybe that was what was supposed to be the problem. But we'll talk about that next time.
We'll get there.
That's all we have for this week. You can find us on all the socials as Working Moms Whine. We've got workingmomswine.com, patreon.com/workingmomswine. If you are reading the book alongside us and you have any thoughts on chapters
please do.
1 through 26 only, we're going to separate it out. 1 through 26.
Don't break the rules.
That's right. That's right. And just general spoiler warnings. And just know that if you go into the comments, there's probably going to be some troll that decides to break the rules anyway. Just know that you go in there at your own risk. But we're all going to have fun together. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.